Many people ask me how I speak to spirit or how I talk to spirit. And I think that the one thing I can say after years, 30 plus years of doing it, there's not one way. Now, it's great when you hear spirit, and it's took me many years to be able to. It's not like sitting down and having a conversation with spirit, but it has become that way now, but it never used to be. It wasn't until I opened up all my senses and learnt about the connection and the energy and building it up and making it easier for the spirit world to communicate, um, brought about the way I did it. I mean, I used to get so fixated on getting the names and getting everything right and making sure that I was um, proving that I lost the actual message and what it was. And everybody says it's a great gift, Steve, you've got. And I see it as a gift as a curse, but it's not. The one thing I would give to anybody who's wanting to train or wanting to hear or wanting to understand it is that the gift is the message that you can pass on to somebody that can change someone's life. I mean, for example, I'd come out of retirement because I stopped doing readings, and basically to help a friend out, I went to an event and I did about 4 or 5 readings. And one of the ladies just walked away from the table crying and sobbing her eyes out because for 5 years she'd thought she'd let her father down. And yet he came through thanking her because even though the family went against her and said that the funeral wasn't what her dad would want, and this, that, and the other, he said it was perfect. And thank you, and I loved every moment of it, and I was right beside you. Well, that just absolutely, she'd been holding on to that guilt and that fear that she'd let her dad down so much. And so it is magical when you're able to give a message from spirit. And when you understand that, then you don't get hung up about proving and trying to work out everything that you're being given, because sometimes it has to be given in a way that the person can understand it. I mean, sometimes they just give me it twice, in a picture form, or they tell me, and I know then that I just got to give it as it is. That person will interpret it. I've even found out now that they actually add information. So when I'm talking, what the person is receiving, I'm giving it in a cryptic way sometimes, and the person's getting the full story. I've had that quite a few times with the information because the people have come back to me and given me feedback, and they've really enjoyed the reading, but they tell me stuff that I'm sure I never said, or I mean, I do zone out sometimes we used to do readings, and so I wasn't always sure of the information I gave because sometimes the spirit world would talk through me. So that was another way. So they could step in, talk through me, and people said my face changed and one thing and another. So that was one way they communicated. But I always found hearing them when I built the energy up, or I brought in another way I used to do was I used to bring nature into the room. I love it going to like demonstrations and stuff. And I've had people say to me, "Oh, I've not got a message." So I always put the energy into the person next to me to give them a spirit to try and push that they get a reading today. Or another thing I used to do is I used to fill the room full of nature, and the medium would always work better. Why? Because the environment is easier to work in. That's why when you first start out, creating your place is a marvelous way because you're taking yourself away, or you're moving to the soul level to create a place that you can connect. So the energy is already good there. I mean, when I used to do readings on eBay, it used to be, and I was one of the first ones back in 2001. I used to always get them to send me love for the reading. And what that used to do is the energy connection would make it a lot easier to be able to do the readings. And I used to do them by email. And a lot of that I'm now found is channeling. So another way that I've actually used to do it is automatic writing. So through doing hundreds of emails, I was just channeling the information used to come to me and I used to type it down. Now it takes a little bit of practice to do automatic writing, but I used to get such enlightenment and such channeled and such wisdom through my automatic writing that was the way that I used to love doing it. So it was strange, really, because I was doing it in an email form. So speaking to spirit is many different ways, but you've got to improve all your senses because they can. It's easier to throw you a picture in and then talk a little bit, and then maybe a feeling, and then maybe a sense, and maybe a smell. You know, they can throw everything in quickly, and then you can get to the message quicker. And that is what it's all about. It's not what shoe size they had or, what they used to do. It's those bits that makes the connection and that the person can connect to. Because I've had times where people have said to me, "No, I don't know what that is, Steve." And then they've gone away and they found the information out and they come back to me and said, "Oh my God, there's a picture, exactly what you said." Now they've probably organised, the spirit world has probably organised for her to see that picture. They've organised for the person to come to me. They've organised for me to say certain things. So, don't always think that you're the one with the gift, because you're just the middle person. And the more you train your body and the more automatically it comes to you. When I first started out, I used to just sit there, I'd do a little meditation, and then whatever whatever they said, it passed on to me. I mean, sometimes the information I got, I used to get so cheesed off because basically I used to get this airplane taking off. And I was like, not another one going on holiday. And then I spoke to a friend who was also a medium, and they went, "Well, maybe it's a symbol or a sign or something." And I said, "What could it mean?" She went, "Take off." And I went, "Oh my God." So all the time they wanted me to start the reading, they used to show me a plane. I thought it was to do with the holiday, because it never felt right. Because once I wanted into the holiday, I was like, no, they're not really, that's not, And a lot of the times at the start, they build up with what the person's going through, who they are, little bits of information to build the energy up. So that's why I say to you, my build the energy up that gives you insights is brilliant, especially if you are struggling with the clairvoyance. I'm not one that, even though I saw pictures, I didn't see them in colour a lot of the times. But when I started using my energy, I'm a waterfall person. Once I started flowing that through my body, the pictures became a lot clearer. Because at the start, they're trying to get you not to concentrate on, so they can keep flowing the information through. So sometimes when you show you a picture, I'd be so nosy. If it was like a really good picture or a Rembrandt or something, I'd be like, "Whoa, look at that, that's so cool." And then I'd stop the flow. So there's all little tricks of the trade when communicating with speaking or a spirit or talking to spirit. So there's different ways. So one is automatic writing. One is psychometry. You've heard of that. I use objects or keys or anything that they have the energy of the person on. That gives me a link then that when I've got the energy of the person, I can trace it to ensure that the person that's standing behind them who wants to talk is of a relation or is connected to their energy. I mean, I was sitting in a pub, and I tend not to do it in pubs because anybody could be there. And I had one lady spoke to me for about 2 minutes. She wasn't anything to do with the lady. She just was nosy and thought she'd join in and give me some information. So it's so interesting, but at the same time can be so frustrating, because remember, sometimes people sit in front of me and they want a certain thing, and the spirit world want to give you what they know the person needs rather than what they want to hear. Do you know what I mean? So the person will look at me and go, "Well, I'm not too sure about that," and then eventually it all comes to light what I've been talking about. So that's another way. Psychometry is brilliant. You can use many tools to that. I sometimes use angel cards and other things to connect and communicate. Crystals, I get people to hold up crystals. That opens the person up. There's all different ways to communicate. And when you work on all your senses, and when you work on all these different ways of doing it, you will find that it's easier. It's automatically, and they can give you different ways to give and talk to you, and you can talk to them. I mean, now, basically, when I go for coffee with friends or around people, suddenly I will just say things, and I think, "Oh my God, a spirit." Do you know what I mean? I'll zone out or something, or something will trigger me, and then I'm in the zone, and then all of a sudden I'm giving them advice without even realising it. You got to be very careful of that, because there was one time I'm standing there seeing 3 people at the bottom of the bed of my best mate's dad, thinking, you know, there's not long left now. I think he's definitely going to go, because they're preparing that, you know, and normally when they're preparing, it's normally soon, because when people visit to come and bring the person over, well, he died 2 o'clock in the morning, and I hadn't realised I'd actually said it out loud, which probably he did need to know so he could prepare himself. I mean, he phoned me up about 1 o'clock and said, Steve, you know, is there any chance of me popping around your house? You know what I mean? Because I'm still worried about my dad and what you said earlier. And then he got a phone call at 2 that his dad is gone, so can he come? So he asked me to come along. So it might have been all for a reason, sort of thing. So, you know, it's a magical world connecting to spirit, but at the same time, you have to find your way and then keep developing. There is just so many different ways, and what I say to anybody is basically find your way and then keep developing, keep expanding all these senses and one thing and another. I mean, even talking to spirit is, you know, it's the signs all around me during the day, and I get music, and so there's so many different ways. And you know, you can even walk around the house. I might do a video on this actually. Pick up an object you feel drawn to, and then ask for the message from the object, because the opposite object will represent something that somebody will want you to know about, like a candle or something. And then it might be, and then you ask for like 10 things to do with the candle, and it might be, you might get a picture of it being bright, which could represent yourself, and then, you know, different things to do with the candle. And then once you've got your 10 things, then basically all you do is you can expand each one and get a message from each one. And then that might be guidance just for that time. So, you know, talking to spirit is so many different ways, and it's not just hearing. Hearing's marvellous, don't get me wrong. I mean, I've done some readings when I used to tour the country, and basically they just talk through the whole hour or the whole 40 minutes or whatever length of time it took. And then other times they wouldn't talk. I mean, I got a guy once who stood in front of me. I was on my 3rd reading. I cracked the first 2, and when you're touring the country, you had to do well because it sort of got your next business. And this girl walked up, she sat down, and she was like, and I just said, I've got a guy behind me. He's not talking to me, but he's got 3 pens in his top pocket. And you know what I mean? And he's showing me a drawing of him actually doing diagrams and one thing and another, a graphic like designer type stuff, and this, that, and the other. And that was it. That's all I got. And she walked away happy as Larry. And I went after her. I said, I'm sorry I didn't give you much information. She says, no, that was my dad. He didn't talk much. He didn't talk much to me. But the 3 pens he always carried around. And I only asked if he was all right. And he showed you gave me that message. So, you know, it's not always the talking, or it might be just one picture, you know. I got a picture of a wonderful child putting a toy in a purse. And that's all she wanted to know, because a poor child had passed at the age of 18 months, and she was worried about whether he was all right on the other side. And she used to put the toy in her purse so that when they went out, she had this toy. So, you know, that was all that was needed. And that's why I said to you, sometimes it's just about the message.